Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel Let's Talk Boxing. Where better a place to start than Tyson Fury up to his old shenanigans again. You just knew, right? I mean, Anthony Joshua's fighting in less than 2 weeks. Of course Tyson Fury was going to catapult himself back into the global public sphere, grab that limelight, put it on himself and say, I'm still the man around here. I'm going to get people talking about me. And how has he done that? He's decided to send a little Instagram story to Derek Chisora, and he's told Dale, stop ducking the trilogy. This will be the biggest payday of your career, you big dosser. I'm going to smash you to pieces, and so on and so forth. Listen, I love Derek Chisora. I've got a soft spot for him. Everybody knows this. You're talking about a throwback fighter who's been willing to fight the very, very best, and his record is deceiving, because had they manufactured his career and he didn't fight against these monsters, his record would have been much, much better. But instead, you look at his record and some people just say, he's a journeyman. He's not a journeyman. He's a lot better than your average journeyman. But nonetheless, he's already fought Tyson Fury twice. And what happened in those fights? In the first fight, when they were both up and coming, and actually Chisora was ahead of him in terms of development, in terms of experience, Tyson Fury showed his natural class, and he was able to win the fight fairly comfortably. Then came the second fight, and that was peak Tyson Fury, able to switch orthodox southpaw, box on the back foot, destructive. Derek Chisora couldn't get anywhere near him. It was a masterclass. In those two fights, they fought 22 rounds, and Tyson Fury outlanded him in 21 of the 22 rounds at a total punch rate of almost 4-1. So what can Chisora possibly do now to adjust, now that he's aged, now that his punch resistance isn't what it used to be, now that his feet aren't as fast as they used to be? What can he possibly do now to overthrow Tyson Fury, who's still looking destructive? It's just not a fight that I find personally particularly interesting. And I can't imagine many other hardcore boxing fans do either. And yes, I know there'll be many casual fans out there who will recognize Derek Chisora. You know, that name recognition is important. So maybe they're looking at it from a sheer perspective of finances. I've seen a couple of people say to me, Chris, maybe it's just the fact that he likes Derek Chisora and he wants to help him out with one last big payday. But here's the thing. Del Boy has been a pay-per-view star here in the United Kingdom for a long time. Del has made a lot of money. Look at that bling-in watch on his wrist. What, you think that thing's cheap? Del's made some money. Don't worry about that. And Tyson Fury, we know, has made money. So he's got to start looking at his legacy here. Because like I've said in the past, if Tyson Fury can come through Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, he would have already dispatched of Deontay Wilder. He'd already dispatched of the great of the past era in Vladimir Klitschko. Well, now you're starting to look at one of the all-time great legacies. Well, to build that legacy, you want to have a variety of names on your CV, other big names, even if they're not supreme fighters, because at this moment in time, I don't expect him to take a big risk. I don't expect Tyson Fury to go in there against a killer just before he hopefully fights the winner of the undisputed fight. You don't expect that, but you still want to see him in there against guys that may be unbeaten, guys that when people look back at the record in years to come, they're going to say, he managed to get rid of that guy. He managed to beat this guy. There's more interest there than to say, he beat an old Derek Chisora for a third time. So what other potential fights are there out there that they could sell to the public to overcome the idea of the superior name recognition? Well, first and foremost, Martin Bakole still looks good. He has had a defeat at the hands of Michael Hunter, and I wouldn't expect Hunter to get in a ring with Tyson Fury, because stylistically, he's a bit of a danger man, really. A raiding sort of style could cause Fury some problems. We've discussed that in the past on this channel. And they've sparred before and stuff like that. But Martin Bakole, since then, has refound himself. And most recently, he decimated the Olympic gold medalist in Tony Yoka. He's also got a British trainer in Billy Nelson and a Scottish trainer, and he's based over here in the UK. So that's something that they could build up. Then, of course, you've got Robert Helenius, who's coming off a very, very good win. And this is an interesting fight in some ways, because Robert Helenius is actually bigger than Tyson Fury. It's not too often that we can say that. He's taller. He's also a banger. He's a puncher. And you know what else? Helenius can actually move. Helenius' talent isn't the issue. In the past, he's had issues with his heart, you could say. He seems to give up when the going gets tough. But because he's so heavy-handed and he's the bigger man, what happens if he does catch Tyson Fury with something early, before Fury can make it grueling? And then we start to ask the questions of whether Helenius has got that drive to work through that pain and win the fight. It provides you with those question marks. And that little quirk could make it interesting. Then there's, of course, Ajit Kabayel, and he has been touted to fight Tyson Fury in the past. And a lot of people were very unhappy with that. They didn't rate him. There's no name recognition there. He's not exactly spectacular to look at in the ring aesthetically. But he is undefeated, and he does have a win over Derek Chisora. So that aspect of the unknown, that intrigue, to me makes it a more interesting fight than a third one against Chisora. But without a shadow of a doubt, my number one choice, if I had a promoter's hat on, would be Jarrell Miller. You're talking about a brash talking American who's going to give so much trash talking in the build up to this fight. And you can imagine a build up that would be pay-per-view in its own right. And you know that Jarrell Miller, if he can get to his best, his physical best, and listen, I understand the history there and, what is his physical best without the cheating and all that. I get that, fair enough. But if he can get back to something akin to that, you're talking about a guy who was a very incessant type of pressure fighter. Can he have the sort of success that would enable him to tire Tyson Fury? Now, I wouldn't have thought so. Fury's going to be the hot favourite against all of these guys. For the reasons I've explained earlier, you don't expect him to take a massive risk. But in terms of the sheer build-up, in terms of the intrigue, these are better fights to me than DEREK Chisora. But here's the other thing as well. Somebody said to me, Miller is persona non grata with the UK boxing promoters. It's not really a viable option. In other words, it's just too dirty. His name's been through the mud. No one's going to take him seriously. No one's going to give him another opportunity. Let me just remind you that Frank Warren just made a fight for Daniel Dubois with Don King. Don't try telling me Don King's history is less immoral than Jarrell Miller's. Listen, man, the dollar bill talks. If they want to make this fight and it can make good money, you've got your ready-made bad guy. Think about how many boxing fans really dislike Jarrell Miller. I don't want to see him anywhere near a boxing ring. He's going to start running his mouth, trash talking. Those fans are going to think, I can't wait for Tyson Fury to smash his face in. People are going to love it. And to me, that's a much more interesting fight than DEREK Chisora. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents. Who would you like to see Tyson Fury fight next? Try and be realistic. Don't tell me Hrgovic. Don't tell me, a beast, because he's not going to take that risk, and you wouldn't expect him to. He's going to take what he perceives to be a softer touch. Even if he didn't want to take that, his promoters aren't going to let him leave all that money on the table, risk missing out on possibly the biggest financial fight of all time if Anthony Joshua was to beat Alexander Usyk. And even if he wasn't to beat Alexander Usyk, you're still talking about a global fight, a monster fight financially. So it's expected. But you still want a little bit of intrigue as a fan. At least that's my position. Let me know what you think. Moving on, let's talk about Alexander Usyk. Someone from Alexander Usyk's management team has uploaded a latest video of him just having a little move around. It's only a couple of second video. And he's put 106 with a question mark. Now, I'm assuming he's talking about 106 kgs. If so, that's 234 pounds. So he would have bulked up Alexander Usyk more so. Now, the reason I bring this up, for those of you that are aware, the video that I did a couple of days ago on Alexander Usyk bulking up, the question about whether he had indeed bulked up, we had yet to see him without his top on, and asking whether this would affect Usyk in a negative way or perhaps a positive way. Is stamina a factor? Is his speed a factor? His mobility, his agility? Could there be a negative impact here? Or has he grown into the weight naturally and will it make him a lot more destructive? And we also spoke about the tactical reason that he might be doing that to overcome something that Anthony Joshua offered in that first fight that maybe wasn't ideal for Usyk. Go back and check out that video and let me know your opinion on that. Moving on from Alexander Usyk, let's talk about Lomachenko, Devin Haney, and Bob Arum. Bob Arum has come out and said that Devin Haney will get to fight VASYL Lomachenko if he beats George Kambosos on October the 15th. Now that Loma is able to leave the Ukraine, though, he would want a tune-up fight first. And Devin Haney got angry at this and he wrote, "Tune this D. I wanted the fight now. I'm the champ. I don't have to wait on no one." Here's the thing. A lot of the Devin Haney fans are loving this and they're saying, yeah, don't fight Lomachenko. Why does he want to tune up? The guy's a fraud. You have to understand that Lomachenko last fought in last December. Now, if this fight occurs in October the 15th, they're not going to fight again, at least till the new year. Realistically speaking, it probably won't be until the spring. By the time they want to build up that fight, it would be a monster fight for Top Rank. So then you're talking about Lomachenko being out of the ring for 18 months. Of course he's going to want a tune-up fight. Now, a couple of people, when I said this on Twitter, said, well, hold on a minute. Usyk's been out for a long time too, and he's been in the Ukraine just like Lomachenko has, and he's about to fight Anthony Joshua without a tune-up. Yeah, but Anthony Joshua's fighting without a tune-up too. So they're both fighting, and they're fighting soon. You know, it's not going to be an 18-month layoff. They're fighting soon, but additionally to them fighting soon, they haven't fought anybody else. It's not like one guy's going to be sharper than the other. Lomachenko is not going to be in a situation where he's out for potentially 18 months. But within that period, Devin Haney has fought twice. If Devin Haney is the guy that we all think he is, a supreme, talented boxer, of course Lomachenko wants to be at his best. I want to see the best fight the best, and I want them to be at their best. Why is there an opposition to this? I don't understand it. Batman Boxing has reported that Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia isn't happening because Team Davis is ignoring them. They're not interested in the fight. No one called us. No one answered our calls. We're moving on, and we will try to make the fight against Teofimo Lopez. Wow. Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez. Here's the thing. We can't possibly know whether this is true, whether they're returning the calls or not. But it's quite clear that Oscar De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia want to make this fight. And I've spoken about why I believe Oscar De La Hoya wants to do this, what the real motive is for Oscar in a video after the Ryan Garcia-Javier Fortuna fight. In the post-fight review of that, where I was talking about him potentially fighting Tank Davis, I explained the reasoning for this. Check that video out. But it tells us three things. If this fight happens, Garcia Lopez, it tells us three things. Number one, Teofimo Lopez is a very bad boy. Because this is a dude who was taking big risks to try and make himself into a star. He was taking on serious fighters that weren't quite elite. They were just under the elite, world-class fighters. Guys like Nakatani, guys like Richard Comey, who he absolutely decimated. Then he steps in the ring with the likes of VASYL Lomachenko, pound-for-pound fighter. Lopez delivered. He then fights another undefeated guy in George Kambosos. He loses. It would have been very easy for him to then start to think about how to manufacture a path, build a big name again, while not taking any risks, try to bring that cash in. Instead, he's having one fight in his comeback fight. Then there's talks about him fighting Ryan Garcia. If that happens, you've got to give this boy an awful lot of credit. The second thing it tells us is that Ryan Garcia genuinely is ready to conquer the world, as well as the combination of why I believe Oscar's ready to push him in. Like I said, go check out that video. The third thing it does, though, is it embarrasses Team Tank. You have to understand, Tank's team and his fans, but more importantly the team, doesn't matter what fans say. Fans say all kinds of outlandish things. But his own team say, this guy is the pay-per-view star of the division. He's the cash cow of the division. When you are the cash cow of the division, you're the one that holds the chess pieces. You are the man in power. If you want to make a big fight because you're the money man, you can lure guys into fighting you. So then, why is it that he's not been taking big risks of late? Why isn't he fighting the biggest fighters in the division? He was reportedly unhappy about this and he was going to leave the money team. And yet he's going to stay with them and this is going to continue. So this would be a very bad look. And from the neutral's perspective, you're always going to have people that are hypnotized by a particular fighter and they love him. And he's certainly got a cult following. But to the neutral fan, the guy who doesn't play these boxing affiliation games, they're going to start to look at him more like a side note, to be honest with you. Because the other lightweights are fighting each other and taking risks, and he wouldn't be. As ever, thank you for taking the time to watch these videos. Please don't forget to hit a like button with a jab, hit the subscribe button with a right cross, and with an uppercut, land directly on the chin of that notifications button. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.